396. We are very, very close to being able to afford that field, though. So that's always an option. But for now, the other thing I can check is cows. Yeah, cows are kind of expensive, so buying 500 cows would be a bad idea. Surprisingly, the beginning of summer is the best time to buy a cow. Who knew? So anyway, we will do that. Morning is 6 o'clock, dawn is 6:20. I'm going to go to dawn. It's going to rain overnight. Voila, rain. Sunshine. So, and now the milk completely covers the cost of vehicle running and animal upkeep because the cows aren't breeding, so we're producing more milk for sale. The ground is wet, so we are not going to be cutting any grass or anything, but we can run down here, jump in the truck and pick up all the silage. Yeah, part of the problem with the cow breeding is the rate at which they produce. We've got 75 cows and they were breeding one a day. So before we got to that point, I've got 20 cows. I don't know the comparison rates, but I've got 20 cows on my Marwell Manor and Farm Sim 19. It's going to be 2.5 days for one to breed. So by natural causes, it's going to be a long time before I get to 20 cows there. On this game, I've got to play 20 days, which is fairly easy to keep track of because we're playing seasons. Yeah, okay, hi cows. But in a regular game, you don't have the passage of seasons to keep track of, so you've got to play 20 days, and who knows how long that's going to take. Let's turn the engine on. I'm going to need the help thing up for a minute. We are set to square bales, and go. We will find out if we have any grass left on the field as well while we're here. Oh, anybody want to guess how many bales we have? Because I know I didn't keep track. Lots. 120. Oops, back one. 135 bales. Awesome. And 2 and 1 more. Okay. I could have kind of used the trailer at this point because obviously it would double my shipping capacity. I'm not seeing any grass bales as I'm driving past, so we might actually have wrapped everything. Oh, 135 bales, so there's 133 out there, including these 12, because we fed 2 to the cows. Now, at the moment, the contents of this wrapped bale is grass. So I could drop another bale straight in with the cows and it'll count as grass food. Oy. Yeah. We're coming up to the absolute worst junction on this particular map. At least the one I've the worst junction that I go through using. I think there are some others where there's gates at the end of a path, but this is the actual entrance to the cow farm, whatever it's called. And the reason it's such a pain is the trees. I can get to here, I can look that way and see if anything's coming. I can look that way and it's a tunnel, and cars spawn in the tunnel right at the entrance. So the first time I see them is as they appear out of the tunnel, and that causes a few accidents. All the other all the other farm entrances, you can see a distance both ways, so you can judge if there's traffic coming or not, and if you have room to pull out. So, BGA straight up. I mean, as it is, my opinion right now is I don't have to get the trailer, because we've kind of got all day until the crop dries out before we can actually do anything. Oops. I will drive through here and see how much silage we have. Oh, 90%. Okay, we've got 722,000, nearly 723,000 litres of digestate. So that'll go a ways to cultivating and seeding some of these fields. I probably won't do any cultivation or seeding today. I could have gone straight across. Hi God of Thunder, how are you doing? How'd you get on last night after I left? So yeah, because at this point now we've got wet ground, I've got a ton of bales to move, and I've got nothing else to do before the ground dries out now. So it's no big shakes as far as jobs to do. Is just to drive around, pick up bales, take them to the BGA, because there's nothing else I can do right now. I should probably review animal food levels, but they shouldn't be critical at this point. The thing they needed last night was water, and now that it's not summer, their requirements for water have dropped off. So instead of having about a day of water available, they should have about 2 or 3. Oh, okay. About 4 AM. Okay. And a lot of the trees down this path aren't really trees, they just look like trees. They're magic trees you can drive through, which is kind of handy, because driving out the cab like this, there are points down that pathway where I can't see where I'm going. The other deficit, or the other downside of this map not being seasons ready, is that the trees look like they do all year round, and these trees should be now turning copper shades and dropping leaves, and during winter they should have no leaves at all, but because this isn't a seasons ready map, We have leaves on the trees all year round. So 133 divided by 12 is divisible at 132. So we're going to have a spare bale. So the very last bale on this field I will probably just drop in the cow feeding trough. So I think I left the server about 1 o'clock. I might have puttered around doing stuff afterwards before I went to bed. So the potential bad news is if the server froze up, you might have to do all those potatoes again. I did potatoes once, very early on Goldcrest Farm, on Farm Sim 17, and that kind of said it for me. I don't want to do potatoes as a general thing. At least not on a farm with fields of this size. Even on Marwell Manor, I mean, all the fields are kind of big. And doing potatoes is just depressing. I prefer to do beets rather than potatoes if I'm going to be feeding pigs. And on this map, I bought a field which had beets already on it, and so I didn't have to plant them or tend them. I did actually plant them and tend them because I had intended to buy the field, and I'd already ploughed it for the owner and fertilised it. And then he says, "I want you to plant sugar beets on this field." I said, "Oh, okay, well, fine." And so since I had sugar beets on hand, I sold about 95% of them, put the rest in pallets, and decided, well, since I've got some, I might as well keep them and feed pigs. So it's one of the reasons I do actually have pigs on this farm. Yes, and that was, I mean, that was my problem with when I did the contract in Farm Sim 17 with potatoes, is the harvester is going non-stop with a worker, and you are on your own emptying that thing as fast as you can. And the problem is typically you can't empty it fast enough, so the worker still ends up sitting around on the field waiting for you to come back for almost half the time you're working. Now, a sugar beet harvester has a lot more capacity in comparison, and so it's not so, it's not dormant for quite as long as a potato harvester is. See that, because the equipment's pretty much the same. So if you've got this thing, this has a 20,000 litre capacity and fills up really quickly. This has a 45,000 litre capacity. Still fills up as fast, but it can go for 2.5 times as long, or at least twice as long as the potato harvester before you have to empty it. So if you've got to make a run off somewhere and drop the crop, you can do that. You've got a little bit more time. The wages don't cost you quite so much because the worker's actually working as opposed to sitting around on the field with his conveyor belt out waiting for you to turn up and empty him. Okay. Oh, somebody forgot to shut the gate and I didn't notice. But even so, doing big fields like these, not good. I think field 5, which is the one over the side, where is it? Behind the, over where the cow feeding area is. Ouch, that's a lot of money. Yeah, on this farm, the field right in front of me, that's all covered in corn. That field there was was beets, and I did the entire one. And I didn't feel too bad about it because it's one field, you get it done, and it's all good. But yeah, most of the fields on this map are huge. How many will we see? All of them, yes. One, two, three, four, and one more. There we go. Oh, there's the grass bale. Okay. We can feed that to the cows. Since the gates are open, we can go out this way. So, with the bombshell that we're going to have to run this until at least the end of day 1 summer next year, and if I'm going to go that far, I'm going to go all the way through to fall and harvest everything that's in the ground, and then we'll make a determination of how well we've won. This Saturday morning stream will be going for quite a little bit longer. My weekly streams, from March, I'm now looking at doing 2 streams a night, but limiting those streams to 2 hours each. What that means is, I won't be doing a 3 to 4 hour Estancia Lapacho stream, but I will be doing 2 hours on one day, and maybe 2 hours on another day. World of Warships, there will be more World of Warships. It won't just be 3 to 4 hours, sometimes 5 hours on Monday. It will be a couple of hours on Monday and possibly some more later on in the week. The reason I'm looking at this is because there are now more farms available on Farm Sim 19, and so I would like to experience more of them. And with only one, I mean, obviously there's this stream that's scheduled, which is going to stay as a long Saturday morning cartoons, and then I've got Estancia Lapacho on Tuesday, and then the only other farm sim I'm doing is Friday multiplay, so you get to see 2 maps a week on the weekdays. So if I do 2 streams on Thursday, then we'll have trucking for 2 hours, and then I'll do a farm for a couple of hours, and it can be a different farm. I can bring Marwell Manor into the mix, or I can bring some other maps into the mix. I could do Estancia Lapacho twice, so before we do the multi-stream on Friday, I could do an hour of Estancia Lapacho before we get into the multiplay. But it breaks things up. I don't feel like I'm just working one map and all you're getting to see is, today all you're getting to see is me doing mowing on field 1 and then hauling bales off of field 1. So there's going to be a little bit of variety. The weekends, Saturday evenings, Sunday afternoon evenings, I may do extended first looks of new maps. I didn't do new Bartles Haven or whatever it was that came out last week on Thursday, so we've still got that one to do. I've already done a couple of hours on the Alpine Panorama Northern Sea map, so I'm probably not at this point going to revisit that map. Marwell Manor I've liked, so I am intending to play that for a short while at least. I've played probably about 15 hours off stream. We did the extended first look last week, actually 2 days last week. We ended up with about 5 hours of extended first look, and I've been playing it solo since then, but I will probably stream some of that once I expand the schedule. There will still be days where stuff doesn't always happen. So Wednesday there will be a late stream, there would not be an early stream. Monday and Tuesday there'll be 2, Thursday and Friday potentially there'll be 2, but it really depends on fitting in with the multiplayer stuff. Saturday morning is going to be this, and Saturday, Sunday evenings are not set in stone. I mean, those for me are family days, so if my wife and I are going to do something, we're going to do something, and there will not be a stream, so I won't say there's a definite schedule on that. But that then opens the week up to five broadcasts a week of about 2 hours each. I will be starting earlier, probably around about 6:30. After the first stream finishes, I will take a break for supper, and then the second stream will probably be round about 9 o'clock till 11 o'clock, or until I fall asleep, whichever comes first. And that will encourage me to actually start writing down notes as to where I'm getting in my playthroughs, because obviously the stick a tractor out in a field so that when I'm tapping through the equipment, so now we're going to have all those vehicles just disappeared into that tunnel. They're all about to come back out again. Here we go. And I don't know what the gap's like. Let's go. I should have, seriously, I've got the gates open, I should have gone up straight up the middle. Oh well. But yeah, I'll be, it'll also give me the opportunity to maybe play some other games and see how they stack up with viewership. Because at the moment we've got Warships on Monday, Farm Sim Tuesday, Trucking Thursday, and Farm Sim Friday, and Farm Sim 17 Saturdays. So there's a lot of farming, there's a little bit of Warships. What's that? This is the 4th load, so 48. Also, the other advantage with just bringing the truck rather than the truck and the trailer is it's easier to get it lined up. There we go. Normally when I bring the trailer up at some point, I'm not going to get it exactly lined up right, and I'm going to overlay the bales, and then there's going to be a big explosion, and there's going to be a rough stack of bales rather than a lot of nice, neatly piled bales. Whoosh! Whoa! I can go faster than the cars. Let's see. Typically simulators. I play Train Sim. Current iteration is Train Sim 19. I also kind of want to get back into playing Elite Dangerous. And I haven't played that for a long time. However, they just had a sale on Steam, so I bought myself a second account so I can do a brand new commander from scratch. Because I'm going to have to refamiliarize myself with all the controls and everything else, and it's going to be kind of a whole new learning experience. I know there's a couple of guys who are doing or have done starting Elite Dangerous from scratch, but they've got current skills. It would be like me saying, oh, I'm going to start a World of Warships account in Europe, so I'm going to start at tier 1, and I go out at tier 1 and I wipe the floor with everybody because I have built up my skills playing World of Warships over the last 4 or 5 years, however long the game's been in existence. And so it's not a fair comparison to say, this is what a new player could expect playing this game, because I'm not a new player. Conversely, with Elite Dangerous, I haven't played it for 2 or 3 years, so my skills are incredibly rusty, and as such it will be effectively a new my skills are going to be similar to a new player. Not entirely, but similar. Heck, as far as Elite's concerned, I've been playing that since 1983, when the game was first released. So it's not like I'm a complete novice in how to play it, it's just that I'm rusty. It would be like me doing flying lessons. I have experience in flying aeroplanes. I don't have any current experience flying aeroplanes. I haven't flown one since spring of 2002, just before my flight school went bust. Well, not mine personally, but I also play flight sims. I would not play World of Warplanes because it's not what I would consider to be a flight sim. But I don't have it. Tell a lie. I've got IL-2 flight sim, combat flight sim, but that's the only flight sim I've got currently. I would probably not play another farming style game. Civilization is a game I've played in the past. I didn't hear very good reviews about Civ 6, although they've just come out with a new expansion. So if that goes on sale, that could be a potential candidate for me taking a look at. So one of my sort of multiple sessions during the weeks could be a random game. This week we will play City Skylines. This week we will play something similar. But my gaming thing is a lot like my TV watching thing. I got into I used to watch Jag, and then NCIS was a spin-off, so I watched NCIS, and then they bought out NCIS Miami and NCIS New Orleans. I've never watched an episode of Miami or New Orleans, and kind of the reason is I already watch NCIS, so I don't want to watch multiple shows. When House was on, I watched House. I didn't watch any other hospital drama because I don't go for overload of a single genre. So I play World of Warships. I don't play World of Tanks. I wouldn't play World of Warplanes because they're kind of similar in function. And I like World of Warships, and I know I suck at World of Tanks because it takes a little bit more dexterity on my part to be good at. So if I played SimCity, I wouldn't play City Skylines because they're kind of the same thing. And it's really a case of why play 20 different games that are all the same genre. Let's play, Civilization and SimCity are slightly different. One you're managing an entire nation, and the other one you're managing the intricacies of a city. So while they're kind of similar, the aspects of them are a little bit different. What you're concentrating on doing is slightly different. I avoid first-person shooters. I am not very good at those, and I will freely admit it. I suck at first-person shooters because I don't have. World of Tanks is not quite a first-person shooter, but it's heading down that road, and I'm not. I already acknowledge I'm not good at World of Tanks, and so playing a first-person shooter is definitely outside of my skill set. I'm more of a tactical thinking person. So what else would I play? So things like what is it? The submarine simulators. I played some of those in the past, and they're kind of fun. And that's more of a thinking game rather than a oh my goodness, we're all about to die game. Although in a submarine, when you've got a destroyer over your head and it's dropping depth charges on you, it tends to turn into an oh my goodness, we're all going to die situation quite quickly. I think what else I've played recently. Subnautica I've got. I got about 75% of the way through it on my previous PC, and once I got into the lava zone, it got to the point where my previous PC just could not render fast enough, and so it became kind of unplayable, and I never completed the game, but I did get very close to the end. I know I got very close to the end because I've watched playthroughs. But I may go back and revisit that and do a full playthrough. I may not. I mean, the problem with that game is it's a lot of resource collecting, so you're hunting down resources, and that gets boring really quickly. Kind of works well as a YouTube content because you can skip the boring bits and just say, yeah, I went out, I got 30 ton of titanium, and look, here's lockers full of the stuff. And I did that for 5 hours yesterday, and it doesn't make for interesting content on a stream, but because you can skip it, it works better. Um, some of the Tycoon games I play. I've got the dinosaur one, Jurassic World Evolution or whatever it was called. I could possibly do something with that. Transport Tycoon, Railroad Tycoon. I think the biggest exception for me for games in a genre is I own both ATS and ETS. But of the two, my general feelings is ETS has more content to explore. ATS is possibly a more comfortable driving experience. It's kind of hard to explain. But because the world's so small, I mean, I started multiplayer accounts on both games, and on ETS2 I haven't even explored 5% of the world, I don't think. On ATS I've been to every city on all of the expansions, so all the way from New Mexico up to Oregon. I have been to every single city in ATS, and so it didn't take me that long. And I may occasionally insert some solo truck sim play as well. Because that's a thing I can do. And then I can drive with traffic and no people. Pull forward a little bit. I'll leave a little gap, doesn't matter. And maybe, right, that's too far. That's good enough. Now that someone has created an auto load for Farm Sim 19. I can't remember whether I think it's everything. It does pallets, it does it does contract pallets as well. But it's a semi-truck and trailer rather than something this sort of size, or a trailer pulled by a flatbed pulled by a tractor. And the problem that the reviewer had with it was that little mesh that appears for the unload point is a sort of a greyish black, so it's not easy to see against some surfaces. That red mesh doesn't look particularly good, but it provides contrast, so you can see where the stuff's going to happen. So his comment on his review was, this picking black as your unload mesh is not very good for being able to make things out. Okay, so I'll do that white bale last on the left back. Oh, I've got 2 grass bales. Ugh. 1, 2, 3. Oh no, I needed 4. Okay. There's 1. So we have 2 unwrapped bales on the field rather than 1. Well, it was dark last night, so no surprises. and also there'll be less editing I need to do. I'm pushing the streams out to YouTube, so what you see on the stream is what gets pushed to YouTube. The edit is very what's the word? Very coarse. What I'm looking for is here. Today we did mowing the grass and we got to night time and skipped night. So I would probably put an edit at that point and cut the video just before night time, or just as I've selected night time. Possibly just after night time's finished, so that we get to see how much money was made on milk the previous day, that sort of thing. And that would end the first video. And then I would start a new one. And the way I do the edit, I would just pick a point where, okay, if I cut the video at 56 minutes exactly, I would start the second video at the 45 seconds. So I could be in the middle of the word, I could be in the middle of a sentence. You would have to watch both videos back to back to follow what I'm talking about, because I'm not making conscious efforts to split the video and say, okay, this point here I'm going to make a split, which is what Arthur does. He actually starts his recording software and stops his recording software and says, okay, that is one YouTube video in the can. And I'm not doing that. I don't have any video editing software at this time, so I'm using the tools within Twitch to edit the videos. And that's pretty much limited to at what point do you want to start and at what point do you want to end, and that's the video. And part of the reason I decided to start doing that is because personally, if someone's put a 5-hour video up on YouTube, I'm probably not going to watch it, because that entails me sitting around for 5 hours watching their video. Now if you put up a 40-minute hour video, I'll watch it. And then I'll watch somebody else's video after that. And I'll watch somebody else's video after that. I could end up watching 5 hours of videos, but because yours was only half an hour to an hour, you're more likely to get my viewing. And that's something I've noticed with videos I've produced in the last month, I think it is. There's far more YouTube views on the more recent ones than on the older ones, because the videos are shorter. You're not faced with a 5-hour, 3-minute romp round Lawfolds. You're faced with 5 videos, an hour each, of romping around Lawfolds, but it's not... The mind doesn't look at it and say, oh, that's a lot, 5 hours, that's a big investment. They look at it and say, it's an hour, I can sit down and watch that, and if I like that, I can watch part 2 and part 3. Warships is relatively easy. 3 battles is, a battle in Warships is a maximum of 20 minutes. So 3 battles is generally less than an hour. It depends how much talking I do between each battle, because obviously I'll be in the port, I might have to check the commander, change the commander skills, put some flags on the ship, it doesn't have any camouflage, that type of thing. So I might spend 5 or so minutes in port, but typically if I do 3 battles and then break it after the 3rd one, that's about an hour. With Truck Sim, I'm splitting it by journey. So on Thursday we went Portland to San Francisco via the Pacific Coast Highway, and then San Francisco to Oxnard. And they'd ended up a little bit over an hour each, because Portland to San Francisco is kind of a long trip, and there's all the messing around when you start. Talking about where we're going to go, lining it up, everybody meeting up in Portland. And in a way, when I'm playing solo Truck Sim, I'm trying to keep the journeys down to about 10-15 minutes, so I can keep reading the chat and I can interact with the viewers. but when we're multiplay, we're tending to do long trips, 30-minute trips, and I found if I'm playing solo, I can't be interactive for 30 minutes, because especially not in solo mode if I've got traffic running, because I'm looking, I'm watching the screen and judging traffic and trying to figure out where I'm going, and reading chat is like texting and driving. It's a bad thing to do because you're going to end up wrecking. Farm Sim's a lot easier, especially Farm Sim 17 is a lot easier, because I can turn GPS off, set a tractor off down the field, and I can read chat, and when I get the little chirp of the GPS saying, hey, you're at the end of the field, I can pay attention to make the turn, and then I can go back to reading chat. So it's me being more proactive, or more interactive, should I say, with the Twitch chat, than even Farm Sim 19 I'm able to, because I have to keep watching and adjusting the steering. If I'm harvesting a field, I've got to keep making minor adjustments to make sure that I'm not missing any. However, the game is slow enough that I can check back to chat. What I'm doing now, I'm capable of interacting with chat, because at this point here I'm slowing down, lining up, pushing a button. Whoops, wrong button. I can adjust this. So at the moment, chat could say whatever they want to, I'm not paying any attention, but as soon as that's unloaded, I can glance over at chat, has anybody said anything, and read that, turn around, and I can talk a bit while I'm avoiding the obstacles. So we get out onto the road, and now I'm driving straight. That car's a way off, so long as I keep straight, I can look. I can take a glance at chat. I can even read it a bit closer. Now, if someone dumps an entire paragraph into chat, I might pull over at the side of the road and read it, and then make comment on it rather than keep driving. I figure things like Train Sim is probably an easy game to do that for, because it's not like you can crash a train into a tree unless there's a tree fallen over on the tracks, because you're stuck on rails. So long as you keep to the speed limit, you're not going to go anywhere you're not supposed to go. So the only thing you have to keep an eye on is where am I supposed to stop this thing, and if I'm switching trucks and what have you, or picking up passengers, then I've got to make precise stops. But outside of that, running between stations is kind of a low attention event. Okay, we'll get these three. No, we won't get those three. Okay. We'll turn the pickup. There we go. And these three. And off we go back. So I don't know. That might be one more trip, and we're done. Ground's still wet, so we can't do any more. Whoa, air. We can't do any more mowing. Well, and there's the thing. I mean, watching a stream is... Obviously, there's the story of Lawfolds today going on in the background. We're making our way through, I think it's the 5th year of this farm. And I only started broadcasting it around the fall of the 4th year. But it's an interactive show. You can talk to me. With a YouTube stream, it's just the story. So if you're interested in what I'm doing, if you want to keep up with the story, then if you miss an hour of the stream, or you have to go out before I finish, or you miss the beginning, you can go back and watch that on YouTube. If you miss an entire episode, you could go back and watch that entire episode on YouTube. Kind of like things like Hulu, where I can either sit down at 8 o'clock in the evening on a Tuesday and watch whatever's on NBC, because that's a show I want to watch, and frankly I have no idea what's on Tuesday at 8 o'clock on NBC, but as an example, but if I have to go out Tuesday and miss it, it's no great shake so long as I get onto Hulu and watch that episode of the show before next Tuesday. I'm caught up with the story. I might miss out on water cooler talk about, did you see whatever show it was last night? And no, I didn't. Don't spoil it for me. I'm going to watch it tonight when I get home. But that's kind of what YouTube for me is about. It's me dumping the recording off somewhere, so if you want to catch up with the story, you can. If you come into the stream this week for the very first time, you could go off and watch the very first episode I broadcast. Unfortunately, the very first episode is probably about 3.5 hours, 4 hours, so you could be there for a while. And with the expanded streaming schedule, there's even less likelihood I will ever get into a YouTube only broadcast or event. I mean, obviously I'm using OBS. I'm not sure which version of OBS I'm using, but it has the ability to record or stream, and stream. It can do both at the same time. But because I don't have any decent video editing software, it's not so much inclined to make a video recording. Okay, yes, I was right. There is one. I have to be very careful here because we're close to that grass bale. And we have a vacancy for it. So I need to turn the auto pick. Oh, you didn't just do that. Okay. We'll drive into the yard and let's see what we can do. Don't think the Valtra doesn't have the front loader on. Okay. 4. Turn that off, jump out. We'll go and get the case and rectify that little error. I can't believe I was just saying I've got to be really careful here and not pick up that grass bale, and I pick up the grass bale. Yeah, 3,815. So there's been a lot of decay in this bale. Don't disappear. And we'll go and fetch the other one since that's all we need today. Oops. The auger wagon I bought last week was definitely a great idea. I will probably do that far more frequently on my farms now to have an auger wagon go with the harvester rather than a tipper. Yeah, it's 3,815 as well. I might stab one of the silage bales and see how badly that's decayed. I'll go round to the left here. And we're done with that field, so we can jump out and shut the gate. Next time we want to be in that field is last day of fall for the last mow. Actually, no. We will probably need some more grass. But yeah, that's a demonstration of the loss of grass on when you're running seasons. You don't want grass around for too long. Now, entirely possible that won't do. Oh, that did disappear. Okay. I should have gone the other way. So, grass is full 18,000. Yeah, we were looking at water and it was down around this sort of level yesterday, and because we've come out of summer, the hot weather's gone, and the animals aren't quite so thirsty. And whenever the game or whenever season switches between spring, summer, summer, fall, winter, it does a full recalculation on what is the animal requirements for the coming season, and then it divides that by the number of days in the season, multiplies by 3 to determine what the maximum content of the feed troughs can be, and you've got to put that into the trough every 3 days. Now what that means is if I run say a 12-day season, the animals use as much food as in a season as they do for a 6-day season. However, they need half the amount per day. So if let's say a cow needs 2,000 litres of grass per day in a 6-day season, they need 1,000 litres of grass per day in a 12-day season. They need 4,000 litres of grass in a 3-day season. Their requirement is per season, not per day, which is why shifting the number of days in a season can cause strange results, because I don't know that it necessarily recalculates what do I want to do here? Turn the engine on. Drive close to the bales so they drop. There we go. And then turn that off. Right. This time the auto pickup has been turned off. So, actually, before we go anywhere, I am going to stop and check the crop map. Okay, so 3, 4, 32, 33 are still in the final stage of growth, third stage of growth. So while that looks like it's ready to harvest, it's not. So I can run through here, we'll jump out and shut the gate. Ground's still damp, so still no harvesting. I've got 379,000 pounds in the bank, so we already had the last, or was it the 5th day of summer, was the last dry day we had, and because we had all the fields to harvest, plough and reseed with oilseed radish, I leased a New Holland T8 for the day. So we are kind of getting to the point with the amount of fields we have and the amount of work that needs doing, we might want to think about buying another large tractor to complement the 2-class tractors that we already have. And so that might be something I will look at doing. Pull forwards. Oh, go backwards. Problem with this unload script is it doesn't have a forwards backwards button, which I think the equivalent